Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking everything going on in the world of sports. Join in the conversation on social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go.
Instead of looking deep inside, every word I have to say, keep it simple.
Welcome to an all-new edition of the ODPH podcast. What is happening, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us this week. My name is Ken M. Joining me in studio, as always, you know him. He's the co-host. His name is Padawan J.
Let me talk to you.
And boy, do we have a lot to talk about in the land of sports. You are tuned into the one and only sports edition of the ODPH, and we definitely want to keep those conversations going on after the show. So, Pad, where does everybody go?
ODPHpodcast.com.
Right on. Swing on over to the website. Check out all the social media links. Everything's updated. We're talking to everybody throughout the week, and we definitely love having those conversations. So don't miss out on that. Also, while you're at the website, check out the TeePublic Store link. A lot of things happening there. And with con season in full swing, if you want to go support the brand out at your favorite conventions, that is the easiest way to do it. Can't recommend it enough, especially when it's on sale. Also, while you're at the website, check out the blog section where you always have reviews dropping left and right. The Classifieds, which features such friends of the show, such as 3FN Podcast, Dragon Master Games, Nerd Initiative, and especially right now, voter registration. Especially if you're in the United States, that is a key thing going into this November. That's all I'm going to say about it. So make sure that you know where to go on Election Day and make your voice heard. Enough said there. Pad, we're on quite a few directories, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
How many are we on?
We are on 391,953.
I do not question, folks. That is why he is a statistician to the stars.
Source, trust me, bro.
So wherever you're listening to the ODPH on, we thank you. Drop us a review on your favorite podcatcher. It definitely helps the algorithm of the show. Last but certainly not least, the music section of the show, which we had a lot of great listeners going this week and checking that out. Shout out to Brewbaker's Moose. We had a lot of people hitting us up about the music we play here. So if you want to go get some Brian Wolf and the Howlers, you want to go get some Second Suitor, Tom Jolu, Shout at the Robots, Floodlands, and more, that is the place you go. Go support the heck out of all of them. They're amazing because they let us play all the music that you hear royalty-free on the show. It's that simple. And if it's anything and everything that is the ODPH that I might have missed, well, you can find it at odphpodcast.com. And remember, use on social media the hashtag ODPHpod. Let's get into it. It is football season in the United States of America. Week 1 is in the books for the NFL.
Yes.
And if you're new to the show, one thing we do is we do locks and leaps. You can find that current status sheet on Instagram and Facebook. But we have to really deep dive into what went down on the week. So, Pad, kick it off. What are we talking?
So we're going to start with my lock, and that was the Philadelphia Eagles to beat the Green Bay Packers, which was down in Sao Paulo, Brazil. On Friday night, which did end up happening. The Eagles won by the final score of 34-29. Jalen Hurts, 20 of 34, 278 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Jordan Love, 17 of 34, 260 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, just 1 interception. Josh Jacobs for Green Bay, 16 carries, 84 yards, no touchdowns. For Philadelphia, Saquon Barkley. Giants fans, plug your ears. 24 carries, 109 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then for receiving, for Philly, it was A.J. Brown leading the way, 5 catches, 119 yards, 1 touchdown. Oh, by the way, Saquon Barkley also had 2 catches, 23 yards, and another touchdown. So he had 3 touchdowns overall on the night. Giants fans, how you feeling? Green Bay, for receiving, it was Jaden Reed with 4 catches, 138 yards receiving, and only 1 touchdown.
Well, this one is a little heartbreaking for the Green Bay Packers. They were definitely in this game, albeit, though, a bad injury to Jordan Love. He is not out for the season, but it has
about
a month. So it has been announced Malik Willis is going to be starting next week. How that's going to play out, if they can just maintain a 500 record, I think they'll still be okay.
Yeah.
But I think they had a good showing against a team that a lot of people, including yours truly, are picking to go to the Super Bowl. And that is the Philadelphia Eagles, who looked a million times better in that first half.
Yeah, they did.
With one Saquon Barkley in the backfield.
Looking like his old Penn State days.
Well, I think he's motivated, and I think this has put a little chip on his shoulder, to put it mildly, that he wants to make a big statement that the Giants messed up by letting him go and did not pay him, and he is very happy being in Philly. And it showed. I mean, obviously, being 19-17 at halftime didn't really matter so much. But once you got into that third quarter, I think everybody kind of found their groove, and that's where Philly took out and jumped to the lead.
Yeah.
So in that situation, he did look very, very good in that backfield and was making a lot of noise. And I think if he can maintain that pressure throughout the season,
Yeah.
Philly's going to be scary. I mean, this was a gutsy win for him, too.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that they went in and really want to make a good statement, and I think they did.
So the good, Saquon Barkley looked amazing. But then again, I've known this being a Penn State guy. Well, he used to do kick returns and punt returns in college.
Mm-hmm.
But this just shows his skill and his dynamic when, A, he's healthy.
Yep.
Let's give that, it's mentioned. But then also, B, he has a competent quarterback. We'll get to that in a minute. He has a decent, I'm not going to say they're great. They're a good offensive line. And everything else around him is clicking because, let's face it, when he was with the Giants, substandard quarterback, even more of a substandard offensive line, and the rest of the weapons around him. Because, let's face it, ultimately at the end of the day, no matter if you look at the wide receivers, tight ends, running backs, fullbacks, halfback, like whatever position it is, if they're getting the ball, they're only as good as the other offensive weapons they have.
Yep.
If you got a wide receiver who's going to draw double coverage, well, if you send that running back out for a catch, it's going to be a lot easier for that guy to catch. I can't tell you how easy it made it for Julian Edelman and the Patriots when you had Rob Gronkowski running over the middle, barreling guys over and he was getting double teamed every single play. It helps, So seeing Saquon prosper as a Penn State guy, love seeing it. On the other side, the flip side, I feel bad for Jordan Love. He's Green Bay still has been incredibly lucky over the last 3 decades. They've had 3 franchise quarterbacks in a row with Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, and now seemingly Jordan Love. The lucky thing, he's not being placed on injured reserve according to the injury report that was posted yesterday as we record. However, things don't go well with Malik Willis, and you want to go another way. There, I'm looking at the current free agents of the NFL in the quarterback position, and there are some names on here that I honestly wouldn't trust to start over Willis. Ben DiNucci, Logan Woodside, Trevor Siemian. There is one guy though. Sign him on a veteran minimum if such a thing exists in the NFL. You need him a couple weeks, have him come in. Ryan Tannehill, he's available. If things don't go well for Willis and things don't progress with Love the way you want. Not saying he's going to replace Jordan Love.
Right.
But you need a guy you want to contend for that division. You want to contend for that playoff spot. Well, there's a fill-in for you for a couple of weeks.
Tannehill would be good, but the only thing I think at this stage with him is his knees. I would be very skeptical about signing him.
Sure.
Because the Packers line is not exactly the greatest, albeit though it's better than certain other teams. We'll get to that in a bit. And even with Josh Jacobs in that backfield, who had an impressive outing for the Packers on his first game.
Not a bad game.
I don't think he would necessarily be the answer. I think Willis gives them a slight edge over Tannehill, but it's very slight because I think where he lacks in experience, he makes up for the athleticism.
For what it's worth, the quarterbacks for Green Bay, both Love and Willis, were both sacked one time apiece, so 2 sacks overall. And then for the quarterback hits, Philly landed 5 quarterback hits for the game, which I don't know, might not be many, might be a bunch, but I kind of chalk it up to that field. It's a soccer field. It's not an NFL football field.
Oh, sure.
It's kind of crap.
It is what it is, but I mean, obviously with the NFL trying to make an expansion into the international market, you're going to see games like this pop up all the time.
I just remember the story. Julian Edelman's got his podcast, and he had Richie Incognito on there. And he was talking about playing in Dolphins Stadium when the Marlins were still there. And this is before they had the roof and before they had this and that to really help the team out. And Richie Incognito was talking how they were playing a Sunday game early in the season or whatever. And of course, Florida, it rained.
Yeah.
And they were down by one of the end zones. I forget which one he said. And their team, the Dolphins, were in where the infield was on the baseball field. And they just could not get their footing to get anything done because they're running in the mud. And the other team's just bowling them over. And one of the coaches goes, "Guys, what the are you doing?" He's like, "Coach, listen, we're trying our best, but we're playing in mud here."
Yeah. So it will be some challenges. Both teams will have to work on moving forward. I mean, obviously, Philly's got a little tougher schedule going into their next couple weeks.
Yeah, so Philly, this next upcoming week is at home against the Atlanta Falcons. Then that is a Monday night game. Then they've got a road game against the New Orleans Saints, then on the road against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and then they've got a home game against the Cleveland Browns. For those Green Bay Packers, what's it going to look like the next couple of weeks without Jordan Love? Well, Next couple games, at home against the Indianapolis Colts, on the road playing the Tennessee Titans, at home against the Minnesota Vikings, and then on the road playing the Los Angeles Rams.
Definitely not an easy schedule for the Packers either,
No.
but I think for week one, both teams had a good showing, albeit, though, the Packers are in a little bit more trouble if Jordan Love does not come back 100%.
Then one of my two leaps was the Baltimore Ravens to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, which you might be saying, of course you picked against the Chiefs. You're a Patriots fan. I mean, yeah, that might play a little bit into it, but I saw a stat. Going into this game on primetime games, the Baltimore Ravens were 7-1. And I looked at that and went, ooh, okay. However, I was wrong. Kansas City won by the final score of 27-20. Patrick Mahomes, 20-28, 291 yards passing, 1 touchdown, just 1 interception. Lamar Jackson, 26-41, 273 yards passing, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Surprise to no one, Lamar Jackson led the way for Baltimore in rushing, 16 carries, 122 yards, no touchdowns. Should be noted though, Derrick Henry, 13 carries, 46 yards, 1 touchdown. For the Kansas City Chiefs, it was Isaiah Pacheco, 15 carries, 45 yards, just 1 touchdown. Rashee Rice led the way for Kansas City in receiving with 7 catches, 103 yards, and no touchdowns. For Baltimore, it was Isaiah Likely, 9 catches, 111 yards receiving, and 1 touchdown.
Well, this game can be summed up very simply. The Chiefs at home, you have to play perfect.
Yeah, you've got to stop him at some point, too. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and in this situation, Baltimore did not.
Nope.
And it's not to say that Lamar Jackson had a bad game, because I don't think he did.
No.
I think for anybody that was trying to get very critical about his game in this one, I think really is stretching. I thought that the Ravens did enough, but they did not play perfect. And I think that came back to haunt them. Meanwhile, I think the Chiefs, in my opinion, had a lot of things go their way concerning penalties. And I just think that they got lucky in that sense. And I think when it has to come down to the final drive of the game, I think this really gave some pause about the Chiefs' defense. I think for as good as they've been, and not saying they've ever been lights out, but they let Baltimore drive right down that field. And if it wasn't for a length of a big toe, we'd be saying about how Baltimore is 1-0 and the Chiefs' sky is falling. And that's something that we have to remember. I mean, Isaiah Likely turned out to be a phenomenal surprise.
The number 1 claimed player on Fantasy Wires this week.
Well, they had a great repertoire with Jackson.
Throw the ball a few more times to Mark Jackson, please. Or Mark Andrews, please.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we normally see the other stat line flipped around here. Then Andrews would have 9 catches for 111 yards.
In this case, 2 for 14.
No, they definitely took him out of the equation. I want to say the Kansas City defense definitely honed in on him and really made him a non-factor. And you would think that by doing that, that would slow down the Ravens, but no, they held in there and they really scrapped.
Right.
And I think that's a testament to what they built in Baltimore. So when it comes down to that final series, I mean, yeah, Baltimore had a lot of stuff not go in their favor, in my opinion, but they still weathered the storm, and the fact they were in that position late, I think speaks more volumes about how the Chiefs' defense is not up to that level that it's been in years past. Now, am I saying that it's a Super Bowl hangover? Not really, but I think it's the curse of winning, so to speak.
Especially when you win 2 in a row.
When you win 2 in a row, you think you can turn it on like a light switch, and it doesn't happen that way.
It was, in fact, what is it, like 13 to 10 at halftime?
And I
Still
think
close ball game.
And I think the fact that Kansas City didn't put them away till late.
Right. Well, and the fact that, it was looking decent for Kansas City after the third. Kansas City only put up 1 score, but they held Baltimore scoreless. Baltimore scores anything in that third quarter. I think the pendulum swings back the other way.
Oh, completely. I think that's where Kansas City lucked out as well, too.
Because Baltimore came back in the fourth quarter, 10 points to Kansas City, 7.
So when you can really put that in perspective, I thought Lamar played fine.
Oh, yeah.
It's just a matter of you have 2 teams that are highly mentioned as Super Bowl contenders. They went, they scrapped, and I think the big stat that I took away with is that the Chiefs got a lot of favorable calls in their direction for reasons. And that's just my opinion of it. And I
Yeah.
think the fact that they took advantage of that, and that's what held off Baltimore. Baltimore was too little too late. The fact it came down to a last-second throw in the end zone,
Right.
I think, Baltimore is still trying to find their new offensive identity. Obviously, Derrick Henry being a part of the team, 13 attempts, 46 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Of rushing. I mean, I think they still have to kind of find a way to gel a little bit, but I think they really gave an indication in that last drive.
Mm-hmm.
And if they keep that up moving forward, I think the tide might be turning in the AFC.
I mean, at some point, Lamar Jackson's got to shit or get off the pot because he's already a great quarterback. But for him to take that next step for me, he's got to beat the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking.
Oh, everybody has to.
I looked it up. Lamar Jackson in his career has a 1-4 record against the Kansas City Chiefs. First game, 2018, 27-24 loss. Next game was in 2019, 33-28 loss. Then 2020, 34-20 loss. Finally got one out, although by 1 point in 2021, 36-35 win. And then you had the game on Thursday that we're talking about, 27-20 loss.
Yeah.
So like 1-4 record, 1-4 record's not great percent wise, or in any other category you want to measure it in.
No, it's definitely not. But I mean, that's something you can say about Josh Allen. You can say about Joe Burrow. I mean, even though Burrow has had some success against him, you have to benchmark yourself against the champs.
Yep.
And Lamar's big question mark is, can he get over the hump with the big game?
He's a great quarterback, got all these accolades, got all these stats and all these, highlight packages.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's the Peyton Manning effect. It's when it comes down to it, can you beat the rival? Can you beat, the 1A to your 1B?
Yeah.
Or the 1B to your 1A, however you want to measure it. And that was the thing as a Patriots fan that I had to hear on sports television and sports talk radio for years is, can Manning ever be the guy? Can he ever beat Brady? And Lamar and to a certain extent, Josh Allen are in that same conversation right now.
Oh, absolutely. There's no question about it. Those two are in that talk. Burrow has gotten a pass because he's had success against the Chiefs.
He's made it to the Super Bowl.
Right. So he's gotten a pass about it, but that's also like, how many years ago was that?
Mm-hmm.
We have to kind of keep that in mind when we're talking about this. But for the defending champs, I thought they did what they needed to do.
Xavier Worthy looked great.
Oh, he looked great. I mean, that's something that
he had one rush, 21 yards for a touchdown, and then he had 2 catches for 47 yards and 1 touchdown.
He filled the speedster role that they desperately needed on this team.
When he starts clicking and really getting that offense down, and specifically his routes and everything, because I listen, he's a professional, but he's still a rookie. He's still learning.
Yeah.
When he really gets this down and really gets in the film sessions and study sessions and whatever else, good God.
Yeah, he's going to be a beast. No question about it. But that's some time that he can develop, and he doesn't need to be the guy in Kansas City. I mean, they do have Travis Kelce, even though he was really shut down.
Yeah.
And I'm not buying into anything that, Taylor was there, and
Taylor's been there before. It ain't mattered a damn bit.
Right.
I think it's just a case like Gronkowski that Gronkowski had his down years, and then teams started to figure him out, and they figured out what worked against him and what would stop him. And teams are finally catching up to what Travis Kelce's got going on, and they've got him solved.
Well, I think that it also goes back to a point that I was mentioning about when you win so much as they've had, and they've been very successful, how do you stay motivated like that? And I think at this stage for Kelce being 34 going on 35, he needs to adapt his game a little bit just to keep that edge about him.
Good ones always do.
And this game was not a great performance in that, in my opinion.
3 catches, 34 yards on 4 targets.
Yeah, so that was a little more telling than anything as well, but we'll have to wait to see how the Chiefs roll moving forward.
And then we're going to talk my other leap that I took this week, which was the Dallas Cowboys to defeat the Cleveland Browns. Yes, folks, Dallas was an underdog in this game. I could not believe it, could not pass up on it. And this was a good result for me because the Dallas Cowboys won by the final score of 33-17. Dak Prescott, the newly minted highest paid player in the NFL. 19 for 32, 179 yards passing, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, 3 sacks. Oh, yikes.
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson, 24 of 45, 169 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, 6 sacks. Ouch. Leading Cleveland in rushing was Jerome Ford, 12 carries, 44 yards, just 1 touchdown. Ezekiel Elliott, 10 carries, 40 yards, 1 touchdown. C.D. Lamb led the way for Dallas in receiving. Shocking absolutely no one. 5 catches, 61 yards, 0 touchdowns. And then for Cleveland, it was David Njoku with 4 catches, 44 yards, and no touchdowns. But we're all here to talk about the greatness that was Tom Brady doing the broadcasting. No, I'm kidding.
No.
I'm kidding.
There's a couple storylines coming out of this one. And we can start with Dallas first. Mm-hmm. Dak Prescott, now the highest paid player in the NFL.
Yeah,
60
by
million,
a lot.
$60 million a year,
Ooh.
if I'm doing my math right.
Yes, 4 years, $240 million. So average of $60 million a year. $80 million signing bonus with $129 million guaranteed at signing. In case you're not good at math, total guaranteed $231 million guaranteed.
It's an insane amount of money, but the one thing that would give me a little question mark is looking at that stat line of 19 for 32 and 179.
Yeah. A couple of interesting things with this contract other than the whole guaranteed salary guarantees on this state salary guarantee, but whatever. Full no trade clause, no tag clause, and then the 2029 to 2032 void years are available for cap conversion purposes. So work out for the team. But he's got a full no trade and he's got a full no tag.
Well, they had to go sign him. I mean, the only question is now.
Of course, by the time this deal is over, he'll be 35, almost 36.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, it makes sense, but like I say, it's going to really mess with him down the road, and especially for the market for quarterbacks. Now is really going to put some strains on some teams.
Mm-hmm.
Because if he got 60, when it comes time for certain other quarterbacks to get re-upped, that's going to be a problem.
It's definitely moving the needle in one certain direction.
Mm-hmm. But I thought for what he needed to do against a very, very talented Cleveland defense, they did.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it goes to show about Cleveland has got more problems on the offensive side of the ball than we realized.
Good Lord, yeah, they do.
I think the Deshaun Watson
That's been the case for a couple
experiment-
of years, though.
No, but I think the Deshaun Watson experiment is over.
Yeah, I would agree.
And I think, unfortunately, it has failed. Like, he looked very, very lost out there, in my opinion.
45 attempts on 24 completions is wild.
Yeah.
But the fact it's only 169 yards, that's not great.
No, but he was missing targets. He was very erratic. And for somebody that was once touted as a possible MVP candidate,
Yep.
how quickly he's fallen.
Yep.
And
Amari Cooper had 2 catches, and he got targeted 9 times.
well, that he tried going to his best receiver, and it just wasn't panning out. And I think for him is he was getting too much pressure, and not having Nick Chubb in the backfield definitely hurts them.
Yeah.
Jerome Ford played okay,
He was good.
but not great.
So
And
after you take out Ford, Deshaun Watson was the second leading rusher.
Yeah, and that's the problem you have right there.
Yep.
When Watson is doing that, especially for a lot of times, it was not exactly him running on plays. It was him running out of the backfield. So we have to keep that in mind. So that being said, Cleveland is going to need to address this quickly. And I don't know necessarily if they can, because I think the problem is you've locked in Watson for so much money. You're going to have to find a way to get him out of there, but then what do you go with?
Well, there is, and we're not going to get into this whole thing because it's a whole ball of mess and wax, but there is a potential other lawsuit coming that's been reported in the news the last day or so.
Right.
Depending on how that goes, and again, we're not going to get into the nitty gritty of it because I'm not a lawyer. I'm not going to sit here and talk possibles and
No, sure.
whatever else. But if it goes against Watson, ultimately down the line, he doesn't escape it like he has the other ones he did. I could see if there being something in the NFL bylaws, rule book, whatever you want to say, where they void the contract and they get out of it some way. But yeah, they got to figure out that this contract is coming back to bite them in the ass.
Oh, completely. And I think that they don't really have a great plan B. I really think that they are in some serious trouble because the defense was holding them together as much as they could, but you were also asking them to do a lot.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you couldn't sustain any real offensive drives, save for a couple in the second half. So until they get that figured out, I think Cleveland is really going to struggle. Now, you could say, well, Dallas has a great defense, and they do. But I think for how bad Watson played, I think it's more on him than anything else. So moving forward, they're going to have to really, really evaluate and really make some moves and fast.
Yep, because let me see their death. Admittedly, I'm not intimately familiar with the Browns' depth chart. Things don't work out. Oh, okay. But things don't work out with Deshaun Watson. They do have Jameis Winston as their backup and Dorian Thompson Robinson, DTR, is their third string guy. Looking at the schedules for the next couple of weeks for these teams, for the Dallas Cowboys, this upcoming Sunday, they are at home against the New Orleans Saints. Then week 3, they're at home against the Baltimore Ravens. Week 4, Thursday night game on the road playing the New York Football Giants. So that'll be on Prime Video. And then week 5, Sunday night football on the road in Pittsburgh. That should be a decent game.
That'll be some very good games.
For those Cleveland Browns, next couple of weeks, they are on the road playing the Jacksonville Jaguars this upcoming Sunday. Then the week after that, at home playing the New York Giants. On the road playing the Las Vegas Raiders the week after that, and then on the road playing the Washington Commanders after that. And since we forgot to mention them, looking at the schedules for the Kansas City Chiefs, the next couple of weeks, they do have the home game against the Cincinnati Bengals this upcoming week. After that, Sunday Night Football on the road playing the Atlanta Falcons. Week 4 is on the road playing the Los Angeles Chargers, and then week 5, Monday Night Football against the New Orleans Saints. For the Baltimore Ravens, next couple of weeks, next week is home game against the Las Vegas Raiders. Week 3 is on the road playing the Dallas Cowboys. Week 4 at home against the Buffalo Bills. That'll be a Sunday night football game. And then week 5 is on the road playing the Cincinnati Bengals.
Well, I think for what Cleveland needs is they need a good 3-1 streak the next 4. Mm-hmm. They have to. If they split, I think they're still in trouble.
And this could just be a case of like, hey, they're not fully up to speed. You know, they're just a little sleepy. You know, little getting up to speed, whatever else. You know, it could be the case. You know, This could be a fluke. Cleveland could come out the gate next week, light the world on fire, and all of a sudden be up by 3 scores by halftime.
Yeah,
you never know.
Right, but we'll have to see how they do. And for Dallas, I mean, it's a great win moving forward. I mean, I'm not ready to anoint them Super Bowl's champs as some people have.
I think at this point we've all seen the meme of like the Dallas Cowboys season and its fans. And and it's the circle. It's like season starts here. Season starts off well. Cowboys fans get delusional. This is our year. Disappointment. And it's like, okay, we know where we're at this point.
Exactly. So they can relish week 1, but I don't know how we're going to do week 2. Mm-hmm. But that being said, got to start talking about my locks. And, well, my one came through.
Yep.
I had a feeling it was just like a familiar realm we walked into.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Rodgers going to face the San Francisco 49ers.
Boy, have I seen this episode before.
Yes, and this one, well, was a moral victory, I guess, for the Jets, per se.
He lasted more than 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm. So he was in the game, but at the end of the day, Pad, what went down?
The San Francisco 49ers emerged victorious, winning by the final score of 32-19. Brock Purdy, 19 of 29, 231 yards passing, no touchdowns or interceptions. On the other side, Aaron Rodgers, 13 of 21, 167 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Breece Hall led the way for the Jets in rushing. 16 carries, 54 yards, just 1 touchdown. Jordan Mason led the way for the San Francisco 49ers because Christian McCaffrey was out because of a calf injury or some leg injury. I forget what it was at this point. But Mason, 28 carries, 147 yards rushing, just 1 touchdown. And then for San Francisco in receivings, it was Juwan Jennings, 5 catches, 64 yards, no touchdowns. And then for the Jets, it was Allen Lazard leading the way, 6 catches, 89 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Well, easy takeaways from here.
Aaron Rodgers has not completed an NFL game since 2022.
Aaron Rodgers looked like a 41-year-old.
And about what I mean by has not completed, he has not finished a game he started since 2022.
He looked old.
Yes, he did.
Sorry.
I had a friend ask me this the other night because he knows I'm a Patriots fan and all this other stuff. He asked me, do you think Rodgers has a chance? I'm like, to what? Make it through the game? I said, I hope so. I'm like, I'm not wishing ill on the guy, but I hope so. You know, Achilles injuries are a funny thing. You just never know what's going to happen. I go, but is he going to help them, anoint themselves and walk all the way to the Super Bowl? Absolutely not. If this was 4, 5, even 6 years ago, there's a decent shot because at that point we're talking mid-30s, still in his prime, still he's on the other side of the 50 and can hit the end zone on the drop of a dime. But now we're talking 40, going to be 41 years old in December, coming off an Achilles injury. And let's face it, the last couple of years, he's regressed.
Yeah.
And I'm not counting last year because you can't count last year.
Last year you can't talk about. Last year he was done in 4 minutes. So it's like you can't even discuss that.
But can he keep them in contention? Sure. Can he possibly, if things fall their right way, lead them to a wild card berth? Sure. Could he make it to the AFC Championship game? I'm not even going to say Super Bowl. Could he make it to the AFC Championship game? Probably not.
No, he's not going to do it. I'm sorry. Like, after seeing this performance, because you have to contend with a true Super Bowl contender in this.
Mm-hmm.
And you clearly could not do it.
Mm-hmm.
The 49ers absolutely went in and punched you in the mouth. I mean, that's something they
Which
do.
I think we all expect.
Well, we all expected, sure. But in this situation, he needed to show something. That for all the nonsense that went on off the field, he needed something to come back in, win over the team, win over the fact that he was back, and he didn't. He looked old. And the fact that they didn't really go crazy running Breece Hall, even though it was 16 carries, I thought that should have been at least 20, if not 25.
Yeah.
Because you were not working against the 49ers defense with what you had with Rodgers. So the fact that you didn't, that was going to be a problem. But that's something that the 49ers have done very, very well. John Lynch has built this team, and it's a monster.
They are.
On both sides of the ball. Brock Purdy is the biggest diamond in the rough in recent memory.
Yeah.
And he's bending but not breaking, but he's getting everybody involved with the game.
He's real solid.
Yeah, and that's all you need. But the big takeaway from this game is Jordan Mason.
Holy hell.
Who comes in for Christian McCaffrey on extremely short notice. I believe,
like within an hour.
Yeah, well, I believe
he might have known sooner, but we, the public, didn't know until maybe about an hour before the game.
I thought he mentioned something in a post game, and hashtag ODPH pod, correct me if I'm wrong. He mentioned something that he knew something was going down Friday. So he knew.
Okay.
But this is talking about being ready to step into the moment and being ready to do what you need to.
Right.
Because now, after this performance against the Jets defense that everybody was talking,
everyone likes to talk about how good Salah is at defense.
Yeah, they literally got punched in the mouth and had no reaction. When you take a look at the combined second and third quarters, and the score is literally 23-6. Where is this lights out defense for the Jets? Just saying.
Looking at the stats, you have so Deebo Samuel did get some play time at quarterback. He did get sacked one time. Brock Purdy got sacked twice, so there's 3 sacks for the Jets defense, which, hey, kudos to you. But they also only got 4 quarterback hits. So that's not great.
No, and that's something I think they're going to need to fix immediately. I don't know if they can, because you take a look at how badly they performed. And how do you bounce back from that? Because if you're thinking playoffs, you need to be a playoff team, and you're clearly not.
Here's one for you. I'll reread you the Rodgers stat line. 13-21, 167 yards passing, averaged 8 yards a pass, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 1 sack, quarterback rating of 51.1, and a rating of 82.8.
Okay.
Last year, 14-21, 140 yards passing, 6.7 yards a pass, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 2 sacks, quarterback rating of 22.6, rating at 81.4. Zach Wilson leading the Jets to the week 1 overtime win.
Yeah.
Similar stats.
That's a tough one. That's a tough comparison, but it is true. And that's what I say. I think for the Jets, Rodgers is already taking a look at the offseason. I know in December his Netflix show Enigma comes out.
Yeah, Netflix picked up a documentary titled Aaron Rodgers Enigma, and according to an article from HollywoodReporter.com, quote, follows the quarterback and self-styled contrarian thinker as he attempts to return to the field after tearing his Achilles tendon just 4 plays into the Jets' 2023 season. It will also, per the show's description, explore his life and career through the intimate and difficult parts that made him a household name on and off the field, close quote.
Yeah, so I think with him focusing on Enigma and what's going on there, I'm already saying he just looked like he was half checked out the door. That's just my opinion about it. Like, I just think that he looked very, very nonchalant about everything. And granted, if he thinks he could just turn the magic on like in years past, unfortunately, I think Father Time has caught him.
Unfortunately for the Jets, they've got another year with this guy because he's on a 3-year, $112.5 million deal. Last year was year 1. This is year 2. So they're stuck with this guy until he's 42.
Yeah, unless they want to do a buyout or something.
Yeah,
I mean, there's ways around it, but
could be.
I think it's something to watch as we move forward, because taking a look at their schedule for the upcoming weeks, they're going to need to really start bouncing some wins in there, and I just don't know.
Yeah. So for the next couple weeks for the New York Jets, this upcoming Sunday, they are on the road playing the Tennessee Titans. Week 3 is a Thursday night game against the New England Patriots. That's in New England, by the way. Week 4 is at home against the Denver Broncos, and then week 5, technically a home game. but it's not. It's overseas where they're playing the Minnesota Vikings. So that'll be 9:30 a.m. on NFL Network. For the San Francisco 49ers, next couple of weeks. Well, next week they're on the road playing the Minnesota Vikings. Week 3, they're on the road playing the Los Angeles Rams. Week 4, they're at home playing the New England Patriots. God help me. And then week 5 is at home against the Arizona Cardinals.
So some tough games lined up for them as well.
I mean, listen, they're out of those 4 games, 3 of them are tough. One's they're going to wipe the floor with them. And you know which one I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah, but that's what I say. With the 49ers, I mean, they got to look at every game as a serious threat.
Who knows? Maybe I'll get lucky and they'll be looking past the Patriots and focusing on the Cardinals.
I mean, it could happen. That is definitely a key place that could go down.
I'll need a paramedic if it happens.
Yeah. And then obviously taking a look at how our teams were faring.
So we'll start with mine because this shocked the shit out of me. I did not predict the Patriots to win this game at all, but they did, winning by the final score of 16-10. Jacoby Brissett, 15-24, 121 yards passing, no touchdowns or interceptions. Ramondre Stevenson, 25 carries, 120 yards rushing, 1 touchdown. Austin Hooper led the way in receiving with 2 catches, 31 yards, no touchdowns. For the Bengals, Joe Burrow, 21-29, 164 yards passing, no touchdowns or interceptions. Zach Moss, 9 carries, 44 yards, 1 touchdown. And then Jamar Chase led the way for Cincinnati in receiving, 6 catches, 62 yards, and no touchdowns.
Well, this is a team that really
Sucks in week 1, apparently.
looked past a lesser team.
Mm-hmm.
The Bengals really, really were out of sorts this entire game.
Yep.
Mistakes were made consistently. Joe Burrow had an awful game.
The thing I also heard, too, from folks who were able to watch the game, because unsurprisingly, the game was not on here in our area, was that very early on, and I'm not saying like the first 5 minutes of the first quarter, but like partway into the first half, the Bengals just looked very tired and very gassed.
Mm-hmm. They didn't look like they wanted to play.
Yeah.
That was the problem. I honestly think they took the Patriots too lightly. And obviously there had been some drama going on with Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
Him coming in there 6-62 is not the worst stat line in the world.
It's
but
not his normal, though.
It's not his normal by any stretch of the imagination. I thought they just looked very flat. And they looked like a defeated team. I think when it was halftime, it was 10-0 New England.
Yes, it was.
I don't want to say they broke, but how else do you put it?
I mean, it's also astounding to me that one of the biggest criticisms I've heard this entire offseason and preseason, and I've had myself, is just how bad the Patriots' offensive line is. Mm-hmm. Gave up 1 sack for 1 yard.
It was a crazy stat.
What the shit?
Well, they got up for it. I think. I think the Patriots used that very negative bulletin board material and got fired up about it because everybody was predicting the Bengals were going to run away with this.
I mean, they certainly paid attention to the bulletin board material because they shared on their social media page a post that says "We Day," and it was, I'm guessing from NFL.com, it was the quote unquote expert picks, and I'm showing Ken. Every single expert picked the Bengals, and they shared it and was like, "Yeah, We Day."
Well, you know what? How couldn't you? I mean, that's the whole thing. This is probably the safest lock on paper this past week.
The largest upset in the NFL for a week 1 game since I believe it was 2018 is what I read.
Yeah, and I fully believe it. So, I mean, in this situation, the Bengals should have showed up. I mean, being home, they should have had the crowd behind them, and they just they fell flat. Like, they just looked like they were going through the motions, and I don't know if they got too wrapped up in their own hype.
I think they just got so off-footed so quickly and could just never recover.
Yeah, and I think it definitely showed. So they are going to need a statement win next week. I don't necessarily know if they're going to get it, but they're going to need something next week to really bolster some confidence back.
Oh, they're going to need a hope and a prayer because next week they're on the road playing the Kansas City Chiefs. Week after that is a Monday night game where they're at home against the Washington Commanders. Week 4 is on the road playing the Carolina Panthers, and then week 5 is at home against the Baltimore Ravens. For the New England Patriots, we'll see how the next week goes because they are at home against the Seattle Seahawks. Week 3, they're, as I mentioned, on the road playing the New York Jets. That's on Thursday Night Football. And then week 4, God help me, is on the road playing the San Francisco 49ers.
Well, it'll be a true test to see what the Patriots are made of.
Yeah,
but
it's going to be a good learning experience, if nothing else.
Yeah, but I think for Cincinnati, I mean, it's weird to say a must-win against Kansas City is needed, but it kind of is. Like, we really need to see what this team is going to be all about. And Joe Burrow has had tremendous success against Kansas City, so this is nothing new to him.
Yeah.
He needs to get that magic going again, because I feel if they do a performance like they did against the Patriots, it's going to be a long evening. And I'm not going to say the season's done because this team is too talented, but there's going to be a lot of chirping going on that maybe, just maybe, the Bengals are overrated.
Yeah, I don't think the season will be done yet, because the thing I'm looking at the standings working in their favor for the Bengals right now is in the AFC North. There's one team with a winning record in that division, and that's the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're 1-0. Everybody else in that division is 0-1. So if it was the case of like the other way around, where like Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and Cleveland were all 1-0 and Cincinnati was 0-1, then I'd be sitting there going, you need to win, otherwise you're going to fall behind in that division. But yeah, you know what? If they lose again, it might not be the worst thing.
Right. So we'll have to see what team shows up next week, but I know that it's going to be must watch. Speaking of must watch, obviously we have to talk about Bills Mafia and a game that could have gone disastrous in a lot of ways, but luckily for yours truly, it did not, Pad.
The Buffalo Bills won against the Arizona Cardinals by the final score of 34-28. Josh Allen, 18-23, 232 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Kyler Murray, 21-31, 162 yards passing, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Kyler Murray also led Arizona in rushing with 5 carries, 57 yards, no touchdowns. James Cook led the way for Buffalo in rushing with 19 carries, 71 yards, no touchdowns. Should note Josh Allen had 9 carries, 39 yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns, so he had 2 touchdowns overall for the day. Leading the way for the Buffalo Bills, Keon Coleman, 4 catches, 51 yards, no touchdowns. For the Arizona Cardinals, it was Greg Dortch, Dortch, with 6 catches, 47 yards, and no touchdowns. Funny story. I had a friend watching this game, and they were like, wow, Kyler Murray's playing better than I've seen him in quite some time. And you know what my response was? Yeah, because the new Call of Duty isn't out yet. Tell me I'm wrong.
Well, I mean, in this situation, Kyler Murray, I've heard from Cardinal fans, has really stepped up as trying to be a leader for this team.
Sure.
And I'm saying it's long overdue. He needed to do this. They came out very, very intense the first half.
17-10 at halftime.
Right. And the Bills were sloppy.
Yeah, they were. I caught a bit of this game on Sunday. And what little I saw was one of the offensive linemen, I forget who it was.
It was Dawkins.
Yeah, it was it. It was Dawkins. Back-to-back, well, I think it was false start penalties, which, yikes.
Well, it was between him and Osiris.
Okay.
Like, they both had tremendously bad games for them.
A lot of brain farts.
Yeah, I mean, and there's no other way to describe it. But it is true. It's like the Bills came out, and for a team that is usually very poised in that circumstance,
right,
they looked very, very bad. And I think that for what they needed, they were just really struggling to do this. I mean, I think Osiris Terrence and Dawkins really had bad games.
Sure.
I really don't think they played up to potential. And you could say it's first game, nerves, what have you.
Sure.
Because I'm sure there is some, because when all the moves that happened this offseason and everything that went down, they wanted to make sure that like we got off on the winning foot. But you played against a team with Arizona that was playing with nothing to lose because they were already written off.
Yeah, and I think that might factor a little bit into it. Is I'm not going to say all of them, but I think some of the players looked at this matchup when the schedule came out and went, oh, this is going to be an easy win because this is a team that finished with a record of 4-13 last year, that had a top 5 draft pick. They're not going to be any good. And you know what? We're going to be able to put this in cruise control and just coast to a win. And then you came out of the first quarter and it's 7-0 Arizona, and you went, shit. And all of a sudden you're playing catch up and adjustments, and you got to fix your problems. And by halftime you kind of fixed them, but it wasn't 100% there because remember it's 17-10 at halftime. And then you really had major adjustments in the second half.
Yeah, but they did pull it in the second half. I mean, Josh looked great. And
hurdling players again.
He was hurdling, which made me a little nervous, but not as nervous as hearing about his hand injury, which he has been cleared.
Yeah.
He is playing this week, but still, He can't be taking risks like that all the time.
Well, and you got to wonder what kind of status is it? Is it like it's legit hurt, or is it like the Tom Brady, they're not listing him, but it's actually bugging the shit out of him?
Well, I'm sure it's probably bothering him tremendously, but he answered it right away at the end of the game. He said, don't worry about it, I'm playing.
Sure.
Don't worry. And I'm sure that he is really you're going to have to do anything to keep him off the field. He's going to do everything in his power to get on the field.
Looking at the injury report, he is nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, no, he's definitely ready to go. And he's going to need that for Miami.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. This is a rivalry game. Arguably the two best teams in the AFC East.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to need to put on statement games for both sides.
On a short turnaround, too, because it's Thursday night.
Yeah, I know. I'm not in love with that by any stretch of the imagination. But the show must go on, so I think for the Bills, they're going to need to do it. Arizona, even defeat, looked very good, albeit, though, the Bills did get some calls I think fell in their favor, which it is what it is. But you can't take anything away from Josh Allen wanted this game more than Kyler Murray. That's what it ultimately boiled down to me about. So we'll have to wait to see how things shape up from here. But Arizona's got nothing to really complain about. Marvin Harrison Jr. did not light up the stat sheet, though.
Week 1.
It's week 1.
He's a rookie.
But like I say, there's a lot of growing for both teams to do from here, especially on a short week for the Bills. They're going to need to really pick it up.
Yeah, Bills, as you mentioned, Thursday night game against the Miami Dolphins. That's on the road in Miami. Week 3, Monday Night Football at home against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Then week 4 is Sunday Night Football on the road playing the Baltimore Ravens. And then week 5, ho-hum, they're not on national television. It is on the road playing the Houston Texans. And then for the Arizona Cardinals this upcoming Sunday, at home against the Los Angeles Chargers. Week 3, at home against the Detroit Lions. And then week 4, at home against the Washington Commanders. And then week 5, on the road playing the San Francisco 49ers. Good luck, Cardinals fans.
Yeah, it's going to be a wild run for them, but anything could happen. That's the beauty of the season kicking off.
True.
So that being said, Pat, let's do a quick lap around the league and talk about the other games.
Sure. So you had the Pittsburgh Steelers defeat the Atlanta Falcons by the final score of 18-10. Justin Fields stepped in for Russell Wilson, who couldn't play because, hey, he's old. I can't fault him on that. Not a bad game.
Not a bad game. Pittsburgh needed this. Atlanta, who is Atlanta?
What is Atlanta?
Atlanta took a big L, especially with the Kirk Cousins offense. I thought they should have stolen this game. But unfortunately, it did not fall in their favor. I mean, they were scrapping, but that second half, Atlanta disappeared.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at their box score here. Bijan Robinson had a decent game, 18 carries, 68 yards, no touchdowns, though. Ray McLeod III led the way for receiving with 4 catches, 52 yards, no touchdowns. And here's the thing that throws me, as I saw at least a couple people be like, oh, Kyle Pitts, fantasy owners, now that he's finally catching things. 3 for 26 in one tud.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, I mean, it's the false sense of security that Kirk Cousins brings.
True.
But I thought for Pittsburgh, they stole this one, which is, listen, that's a good win for them. Yeah. I'm not complaining about that.
Yeah. Then you had the Chicago Bears defeat the Tennessee Titans by the final score of 24-17.
Ugly game.
Yeah, I'll say.
Very, very ugly game.
14-29, 93 yards, no touchdowns or interceptions from Caleb Williams. Yikes.
Yeah, for being the number 1 draft pick. I mean, I think
too busy from playing with his nails.
Yeah, I mean, he just did not really look comfortable there.
And this isn't exactly a vaunted Tennessee Titans defense.
No, by
that's
no
like
means.
Scaring everybody.
No, by absolutely no means. I mean, the fact that
he got sacked twice.
Yeah, I mean, but the fact that Calvin Ridley had a subpar game, I think Tyler Boyd did not go crazy for Tennessee.
Yeah.
The fact that Williams almost did not pull this off until the very end speaks of a little concern in my book. And that's where we have to kind of look at this team with.
Yeah. Next up was the Houston Texans defeated the Indianapolis Colts by the final score of 29-27.
Colts should have had this.
Yeah.
Colts absolutely should have had this. There was a couple games that were within teams' grasps, and this was one that I thought Indianapolis was going to do because they were playing very solid. They really started kicking into high gear in the third quarter, but this is where the trouble started happening. Yeah. And I think that being a young team, which they are, Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor were trying to put too much on their own backs.
Oh, yeah.
And I know that everybody's going completely fancy crazy over Alec Pierce with 3 catches, 125 yards, and a touchdown.
I mean, I'm looking at Richardson's stats, and that's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah. But that's what Richard
9-19, 212 yards. What the shit?
Yeah, but that's something that Richardson is capable of doing.
The math ain't mathin'.
Yeah. So, like, because he's a versatile threat. So that's I say. So that's why I say, like, he went away from the game plan a little bit.
Yeah.
C.J. Stroud, it was an average game for him.
Yeah.
But I think the big telling sign is Joe Mixon, 30 attempts, 159 on the ground with 1.
Guarantee you, Cincinnati is wishing he was still there.
Yeah, which, I mean, for Houston, that's a big win for them.
Nico Collins, 6 catches, 117 yards. Woo.
Mm-hmm. Stephon Diggs had 6 catches for 33 and 2 touchdowns.
I mean, listen, that's a decent stat line, and I know 2 touchdowns. I know my buddy was saying, "Oh, Diggs is really balling out." I'm like, listen, he's happy. It's still the honeymoon phase. Give it time.
Oh, exactly.
We've seen this twice.
Mm-hmm. But I think for Indianapolis, this is a good loss because this really showed them a temp in the room, and they could have had this game. They really could have. Just they needed a couple more plays to go in their favor.
The Miami Dolphins defeated the Jacksonville Jaguars 20-17.
So if I say this next statement, I'm trying to say this without my well-known dislike for the Dolphins.
Okay.
They're lucky they stole this one.
You got away with the win with the last-second field goal? Yeah, I'd say so.
They did not look good.
No.
They did not look good.
No.
And I'm, like I say, for being a team that allegedly was supposed to just run away with this game, the fact that Jacksonville punched them in the mouth, and the score at halftime was 17-7. This Dolphins team did not impress me with that offense.
Let me read you a couple stat lines. Tua Tagovailoa, 23 of 37, 338 yards passing. Averaged 9.1 yards a pass, so damn near a first down every pass. So let's just say he averaged this game a 2nd and 1 with every pass he threw.
Yeah.
And then 1 touchdown, no interceptions, sacked 3 times, which that's not the worst. Then you get to the receiving. Tyreek Hill, 130 yards receiving, 18.6 yards a catch, 1 touchdown. Jalen Waddle, 5 for 109, 21.8 yards a catch. Devin Akane, 7 for 76, no touchdowns. And you're sitting there telling me you lost that game?
Exactly.
That should have been up by at least 3 scores with that kind of stat line.
Exactly. So the fact that didn't happen, I'm sorry, the team looked overrated to me. I
agree.
I'm just saying, if you take a look at the numbers, and the numbers don't lie.
Numbers ain't numbering.
It doesn't add up. And for how many yards this team put up, the fact they couldn't punch it in, if I'm a Dolphins fan, that gives me pause for concern. That legitimately does.
Well-earned, well-spent money on Jalen Ramsey.
Well, that's
just saying, because within the last week, he did sign that 3-year, $72.3 million contract with the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, and the fact that Trevor Lawrence was tearing you apart.
Trevor Lawrence, of all people.
Yeah, I mean, granted, he threw for 162, but the fact that Gabe Davis, the former Buffalo Bill, torched you for 3 for 62.
Hell, Christian Kirk torched you for a 30-yard catch.
Exactly. 4 years, $96 million. Never forget that stat, folks. Never forget that stat. Like I say, when you start factoring in all that, the fact that Jacksonville was hanging around and was up until late, they had a fourth quarter collapse.
So it was 17-14 after the third quarter. Yeah.
The fact that they had that big of a collapse speaks volumes about both teams. The Jacksonville still has not found a way to close.
Yep.
They don't know how to finish those tough games. And for Miami, the fact that you got out of this in one piece, I mean, as a Bills fan, I'm not scared of you this week.
No.
I think this is going to be a highly contested game, but
sure.
I'm not seeing anything. I'm not seeing anything I'm really worried about, even with as much speed as you have on your team. I think the Bills are going to game plan for it, and I think after watching this, I think things are going to be okay come Thursday night.
Yeah,
to put it mildly.
Bills' defense a lot better than Jacksonville's.
Yeah, so we'll definitely have to wait to see how that plays out. Next up
was the New Orleans Saints defeated the Carolina Panthers 47-10.
Well, I mean, this is a great day for Derek Carr.
Who the hell was it that decided to talk trash to him?
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
Well, I think this just goes to show that Carolina is the worst team in all of football.
They're bad.
They're very bad.
They're bad.
Bryce Young is not the player they thought they were going to get. He played atrociously in this.
Yep.
Granted, nobody else on his team was really giving him a lot of help.
That's also true.
And you finally saw a New Orleans team that we've been waiting to see with the talent on their team.
Kamara bounce back game, 15 for 83 on the ground, 1 touchdown.
Yeah.
Jamal Williams, also a good game, 11 for 38 on the ground, 1 touchdown.
You finally saw this team really step up.
Yeah.
And that's something that if they can click and make it happen,
Yep.
they're going to run away with the NFC South because somebody has to win it. So this is a very good win for them. And Carolina is, well, looking at a high draft pick.
Yeah.
Sorry, just putting it out there.
Then we got the one I know you and I are looking forward the most to talking about, and that was the Minnesota Vikings defeated the New York Giants 28-6. I'm giving the full stat breakdown for this one.
Okay.
Sam Darnold. Yeah, folks, that's right. Sam Darnold, the backup for Minnesota since J.J. McCarthy is out for the year with his injury. 19-24, 208 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, only 1 sack. Aaron Jones led the way for Minnesota in rushing, 14 carries, 94 yards, just 1 touchdown. Justin Jefferson led the way in receiving because, 4 catches, 59 yards, 1 touchdown. And then you get to the Giants. Daniel Jones, 22 of 42, 186 yards passing, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 5 sacks. Devin Singletary, 10 carries, 37 yards, no touchdowns. And then for the Giants in receiving, it was Malik Neighbors because, well, they don't have anybody else that can play decently at wide receiver, so somebody's got to catch the ball. 5 catches, 66 yards, and no touchdowns. I want to point out just 2 quick things. Daniel Jones, of course, as everyone knows, signed a 4-year, $160 million contract before last season, so we're kind of in the midst of that. He is making $40 million a year. You know who else is making $40 million a year in the city of New York? That'd be one Aaron Judge. Judge has got an MVP under his belt.
Yeah.
Judge has got a regular season record under his belt. He set the American League record for home runs in a season a couple years ago. Daniel Jones, since that time, has done fuck all except get injured 1 year, which, hey, I'm not going to really put that on him. That is what it is. But since he signed his 4-year contract, he has thrown 2 passing touchdowns to his teammates and 3 passing touchdowns to his opponents.
I think it's safe to say the experiment is over with Daniel Jones.
We've said Daniel Jones ain't it since they drafted him.
Oh, absolutely not. But the problem is right now, after this week, and I know it might sound a little wild to say, but I think it's official. GM Joe Sheehan is on the hot seat. Brian Daboll's on the hot seat. And Daniel Jones is on the hot seat.
Everybody is.
Everybody is. They're going to really have problems this season because I don't see this getting any better.
Nope.
Minnesota had Sam Darnold, who is not the Sam Darnold of old. He really has never panned out as a pro, in my opinion.
Journeyman backup.
Absolutely torched the Giants.
And the Giants' offensive line got torched to the tune of 5 sacks, as I alluded to, and 12 quarterback hits.
Yeah, because the problem is the team, for whatever reason, never addressed the offensive line.
Ever.
They never did. And I don't understand this logic. I can't defend it. And I think that now, if you're a Giants fan, I mean, I'm not saying the season's done, but
you can try and sit here and if you're a Giants fan and try and argue, well, it's not the offensive line, it's X, Y, Z. Look at Saquon Barkley. Look at what Saquon did when he went to Philly. Now, you can sit there and go, it's a different offensive scheme. Blah, blah, blah. Don't care. He's still the same player. He's still the same guy. Not much has changed with him body-wise. You know, he hasn't changed his legs to Usain Bolt's legs and all of a sudden runs faster.
Mm-hmm.
You look at what happened when he was with the Giants. Yeah, I'll give you. He had the injury years and he wasn't always 100%, sure. But when he was healthy, he did not pull off any feats of athleticism like we saw on Friday with Philly against the Packers. And yet you look at the Giants offensive line, who had 21 carries as a team and 74 total yards rushing. They averaged 3.5 yards a carry. No touchdowns for any of the running backs. That includes Singletary, Daniel Jones, Wan'Dale Robinson, Eric Gray, and Tyrone Tracy Jr. Their longest rushing play for the entire game was 14 yards. That was the 1 carry Wan'Dale Robinson had. And you want to sit there and tell me that, the offensive line doesn't suck?
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. It's a problem they haven't fixed in years. This should have been the year to do it. The fact that you went all in on Daniel Jones, it didn't pan out.
Yep.
And now you guys are on the hot seat. There's no question about it. And looking at their schedule, this is not going to get any easier because Minnesota should have been a win.
Minnesota, I think everyone wrote off as soon as the J.J. McCarthy injury was for the year. I think if J.J. McCarthy was there, they're like, oh, you know what? depending on how things go, you might have a shot at making some noise, but nobody expected them to go very far or even win the Super Bowl.
Right.
But once J.J. McCarthy was gone and Sam Darnold was the one that came in, everyone's like, okay, yeah, they're done for the year. And yet, Minnesota picked up a win. But as you alluded to, for the next couple of weeks for the Giants, next week is on the road playing the Washington Commanders.
Bum, 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 bum.
Week 3 is on the road playing the Cleveland Browns. Week 4 is at home against the Dallas Cowboys. And then week 5 is on the road playing the Seattle Seahawks.
So they're going to need a lot of luck if they really want to make a run. There are some games that, I mean, they're not facing teams that are that strong.
No,
in
the
comparison.
second half of their schedule, though. Oh, yikes.
Oh, that's why I say they're going to need to
yikes.
do like the last time they were talking playoffs. They need to go out to that early win streak against lesser teams.
Yep, because they got a bye week in week 11, coming out of their bye week, so this is the remainder of their schedule. At home against the Buccaneers, on the road in Dallas, at home against the Saints, at home against the Ravens, on the road in Atlanta, at home against the Colts, and then on the road in Philly.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's a brutal stretch.
Ooh.
So they're going to need to find something and really make something happen. I just don't think it's going to happen, and I think that you might see Dabble and company get fired mid-season.
I fully expect it.
If they're 0-6, they're gone. Enough said.
Fully expect it.
Enough said.
Next up was the Los Angeles Chargers picking up the victory against the Las Vegas Raiders, 22-10.
A lot of chippiness, if I can use that word.
Well, it's a division game, so that's not a surprise.
It's not, but I was really surprised at how the Raiders, even though Gardner Minshew, I don't think played that badly, the fact that Justin Herbert, even with that stat line and really adapting to the Harbaugh way of football, I was really shocked at the score. I'm not going to lie. I thought this would be a lot closer. And due to that, I mean, the Chargers looked really good.
Yeah,
I mean,
they did.
I mean, for all comparison, I mean, I think this is the first time in a long time that we had receivers on this team under 50 yards each.
Yeah.
And the ball was spread out.
Yeah.
So that's something to keep in mind moving forward. And for the Raiders, I mean, the question is at quarterback. And like I said, I thought Minshew played well.
And I heard some rumblings, I don't want to say from the team, but just across reports and social media that it wasn't exactly a popular choice that Gardner Minshew was made the starting quarterback.
Well, I mean, Aiden Connell was there last year.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm sure about bringing in somebody new, and Gardner has a little bit of personality to him.
Yeah.
That maybe that might ruffle some feathers.
A little
but
swagger to him.
Yeah, but I think overall, I think Antonio Pierce is trying to build a culture here, and I think this loss is not going to help matters, but it's also against division rival. We've talked about it many times. Teams get up for division. So
this is true.
So I think as long as they show a good performance next week, they'll be okay.
Next was the Seattle Seahawks defeating the Denver Broncos 26-20.
Well,
went about the way we figured it would.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there really isn't a lot to write home about with this one. I thought the Bo Nix experiment, not the greatest here.
Right, but he ain't got much to work with.
Right, so...
He led the team in passing. He led the team in rushing, 35 yards. 35 yards carrying. And then for receivers, well, I'm looking at the receivers. I recognize one of those names. That's Cortland Sutton, who had 4 catches, 38 yards, and touchdowns. But I'm looking at the rest of those names going, who the fuck are the rest of you?
Yeah, I mean...
Marvin Mims Jr. Okay, I know that name.
Yeah, they didn't really light the world on fire. And,
so it's like he was good in college, but then he also had some decent players around him. And again, it's college to pro, so But I'm looking at what he's got around him here. It ain't much to work with.
No, and looking on the other side of the ball, I mean, Seattle looked great. Kenneth Walker, the third, great stat line. If he's healthy, he's a true number one back. He just has to stay healthy. Tyler Lockett led the receivers with 6 and 77. So
I'll say this, too, and I'm not just saying this because we play them next week. Seattle's receiving core, highly underrated.
Very underrated. Oh, absolutely.
For what they put up, it's not the sexy numbers, but... damn it, it's good.
It's enough, though. It's enough.
It is indeed. Then you had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defeat the Washington Commanders 37-20.
Very surprised at the score.
Look at what Baker Mayfield's doing down there in Tampa.
Very quietly too, nearly 300 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Ooh.
I mean, he
looking like Baker from college days.
Yeah, he's found the fountain of youth, so to speak.
Cleveland's sitting there going, "Where the fuck was this all those years ago?"
Well, yeah, and I can't blame him. I honestly think that he now is really playing with a lot less pressure on him, and I think now he's having fun again. And plus, I mean, Mike Evans had a great day for him too. Chris Godwin. So when you get these guys rolling, it's a good thing to see. And I think for Jalen Daniels.
Good start.
Not the worst performance.
88 on the ground, 184 through the air. It's not bad.
Yeah, it's not a bad performance to start with him, but I mean they're going to need a lot of work there. So
also Godwin and Evan had a good game. Next you're going to try telling me Water's wet.
Yeah,
that's not a surprise. Next up was the Sunday night game, which this was a hell of a fucking game. You had the Detroit Lions beat the LA Rams by the final score of 26-20.
Well, what can we say? I mean, the Lions, which I know we were catching a lot of online heat for omitting from punching them in for the Super Bowl this week, they really came out and they looked great in this game.
Yeah, they did.
I mean, I thought they really battled with the Los Angeles Rams team that we didn't know what we're going to get, albeit, though, very devastating injury happened with Puka Nacua.
Yeah.
Very devastating injury for that. So he did get some help, though. Cooper Kupp did really look like the Cooper Kupp of old and had a great game. But at the end of the day, Jared Goff played very smart. Only a couple hiccups here and there. But David Montgomery looked great. Jamar Gibbs, he looked great, too.
Yeah.
And to see Jameis Williams step up.
5 catches, 121 yards receiving.
I think that they desperately need him to get going.
Agreed.
Amon St. Brown is a great wide receiver. Sam Laporta is the heir apparent to the Travis Kelce tight end crown right now. But they need somebody else to help out on this team, and I think Jameis Williams really, really did a good job with this.
For what it's worth, Puka Nacua on injured reserve, so he's out at least the next month.
Yeah, but it did not sound good, though.
Yeah, no. And then the other one we mentioned already was the 49ers and the Jets.
I mean, we wrapped up a lot of football, so definitely hit it. That being said, week 1 is in the books. A lot more storylines to go through in the upcoming week. So that being said, hit us up on the hashtag ODPH pod. What is your thoughts about week 1 in the NFL? How did your team do? Let's discuss, shall we? But first, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey all, I'm Frank. Join me and my friends as we talk about all things geek. Here at Geek Freaks Podcast, we go over the weekly news of everything in geekdom, from movies to TV, to video games, and comic books. We also have a growing YouTube community. Join us as we go over everything in your geek life and share in the love of geekdom.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and we have to talk a little UFC action.
Oh, boy.
A very big card is going down at a very special location this week, Pat. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, so taking place this Saturday, September the 14th, live from Las Vegas, from the Sphere.
Yes.
UFC 306, or as it's also being called, UFC Noche.
Yes, indeed. So this is going to be the first time the UFC has fought in the now legendary Sphere that has taken over. Great night of fights, but 3 fights are really jumping out to us. So we have to break that down. So let's kick it off, Pat. What's on the main card?
Yeah, so on the main card, the first one we're going to talk about is in the featherweight division, where you've got a matchup between Brian Ortega and Diego Lopez.
Well, this one is definitely going to be fireworks. Brian Ortega, who's been a perennial favorite in that featherweight division for a long time, is stepping up to take on Diego Lopez, who looked great in his last couple fights. This one could, honestly go a lot of different directions, in my opinion. I think they're making a lot of noise happen. It's hard to go against T-City, though, in the 3rd round. And I think that if Lopez can pressure him early, he's got a great chance. But after that, like I say, it's going to be a 3-rounder, but I don't want to be facing Ortega that late in the rounds because, like I say, he pulls magic out.
So the last couple fights Brian Ortega has been in, he's on a 1-fight winning streak. He submitted Yair Rodriguez in his last fight with an arm triangle choke submission. That was back in February of this year. Prior to that, was on a 2-fight losing streak. Lost the fight prior to Yair Rodriguez due to a shoulder injury. That was back in July of 2022. Then he lost via unanimous decision to Alexander Volkanovski. That was back in 2021, although who wasn't losing to Volkanovski at that point?
That's true.
And then prior to that was had a 1-fight winning streak going on where he beat the Korean Zombie via unanimous decision. That was back in October of 2020. Then you got Diego Lopez, who is on a 4-fight winning streak, beating the likes of Gavin Tucker via armbar. That was in August of 2023. Pat Sabatini via knockout in November of 2023. Sodik Yusuf via TKO in April of this year. And then his most recent fight against Dan Ige via unanimous decision. That was in June of this year. I'm going to say, listen, I'm not one to count out Brian Ortega. Dude's been in 20 professional matches, 16 wins, 3 losses, 1 no contest. But I'm just looking at the body of work for what Diego Lopez has got going on. 31 professional matches, 25 wins, 6 losses, 4-fight win streak. I'm going to say Diego Lopez. It would not surprise me, though, if Ortega sneaks it out, though.
Well, I think the problem you need, or T-City needs here, is he needs that win.
Yeah, he does.
And I think for Lopez is a fast-rising contender in the ranks. If he can pull this off, I think he gets in that title picture talk.
Could be.
So this is going to be a really tough challenge. I mean, if Ortega is on point and he's ready to go, this is going to be a fight right up his alley, but he's going to want to finish this late. He's going to try weathering a storm of Lopez.
Mm-hmm.
I think at the end of the day, I think he's got enough in him. He can pull a submission out late.
Could be.
So I'm going to take T-City in the third round via submission.
Okay. Next up is the co-main event of the evening, and this is for the UFC Women's Flyweight Championship, where champion Alexa Grasso is taking on Valentina Shevchenko for the third time in a row.
Yeah.
Not a joke.
It's not a joke, but obviously when Shevchenko has been so dominant in the women's flyweight division, to get stopped by Grasso, which, I mean, the first time, a lot of question marks about it. And then, we get to the second one, and, the
split decision draw.
Yeah. That...
I got the results pulled up here. The judges scored the contest 48-47, 47-48, and 47-47.
Yeah, I didn't agree with that. I did not think it was a draw. I think Shevchenko won that. But listen, Grasso held on enough, and now they're in a prime fight position.
Yeah.
I think we could see a lot of interesting scenarios play out here. This is going to be an exciting fight nevertheless.
Agreed.
I'm going to go out on a limb, though. I think I'm going to take Grasso.
Okay.
I think Shevchenko is great. I mean, arguably could have been a 2-division champ had it not been for Amanda Nunes.
Yeah.
But, you start seeing the rise of other fighters in these weight classes. And I think this is now we're starting to see Grasso is really stepping up. And now what's turned into a fight forever, I think is going to have a definitive ending.
So for the champ, Alexa Grasso, 20 professional matches, 16 wins, 3 losses, 1 draw. Of course, as I alluded to, that draw was her last fight against Valentina Shevchenko. Prior to that, was on a 5-fight winning streak, beating Valentina Shevchenko via face crank. That was submission. That was in March of 2023. She beat Vivian Araujo via unanimous decision. That was in October of 2022. She beat Joanne Wood via a rear naked choke submission. That was in March of 2022. She defeated Macy Barber via unanimous decision. That was in February of 2021. And she beat Kim Ji-yeon via unanimous decision on a fight night in August of 2020. Her last loss, majority decision loss to Carla Esparza back in September of 2019. So
wow.
So it's been a hot minute.
I was going to say that's been a long time.
For Valentina Shevchenko, you got 28 professional matches, 23 wins, 4 losses, 1 draw. Of course, draw was the last fight. Prior to that was on a 1-fight losing streak, losing to Alexa Grasso, as I mentioned, face crank submission. That was in March of last year. Prior to that was on a good God almighty 9-fight winning streak. Talia Santos, yeah, she beat her by split decision. Lauren Murphy, yep, her too, TKO. Jessica Andrade, yep, her too, TKO. Surprising no one, Jennifer Maia, unanimous decision win. Caitlin Chukagian knocked her out. Liz Carmouche, unanimous decision win. Jessica Ai, well, that was a head kick knockout win. Joanna Drajicic, unanimous decision win. Priscilla, then she beat Priscilla with a rear naked choke submission. That was back in February of 2018. Valentina Shevchenko's last loss. Amanda Nunes, split decision loss at UFC 215, September 9th of 2017.
Mm-hmm.
Good God. And that's the last loss since the Alexa Grasso one, but good God.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing about Shevchenko. Shevchenko's a Hall of Famer, and this is something that we're seeing her career, and now she's entering that twilight phase of it. Mm-hmm. She's still fighting at a high level, but you're starting to see that competition rise. That's why I say.
She is 36.
Yeah, so that's why I say I'm going with Grasso on this one. But
Agreed.
I mean, would I say Shevchenko has no shot at this? Absolutely not.
I think
she has a great chance of winning this. But I tell you, this is going to be a true fight.
Yeah. No, agree with you 100%. Wouldn't surprise me if it's like another split decision, Valentina Shevchenko wins, but I think Grasso's going to get it outright.
Yes.
Then the fight we're all here for, the main event, is for the UFC Bantamweight Championship with Sean O'Malley defending his belt against Merab Divishvili. Looking at the records for Sean O'Malley, 20 professional matches, 18 wins, 1 loss, 1 no contest, currently on a 3-fight winning streak, beating Marlon Vera via unanimous decision back in March, beating Aljamain Sterling via TKO in August of last year, beating Peter Yan via split decision back in 2022. The 1 no contest was against Pedro Munoz. That was an accidental eye poke. But before that was also on a 3-fight winning streak, knocking out Raul and Paiva. That was in December of 2021. Knocking out Chris Mutino. That was a TKO back in July of 2021. Knocking out Thomas Almeida. That was in March of 2021. His last loss, in fact, his only loss in his career. Marlon Vera was a TKO loss. UFC 252. August 16th of 2020. So it's been over 4 years since his last loss. Merab Dvalishvili, 21 professional matches, 17 wins, 4 losses. Currently on a good God Almighty 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 fight winning streak. Beat Henry Cejudo in his last fight. Also beat Peter Yan, Jose Aldo. Those were all by decision. Beat Marlon Moraes via TKO. He beat Cody Stamann, John Dodson, Gustavo Lopez, Casey Kenny, Brad Katana, and Tyrion Ware, all by unanimous decision. His last loss, and losses, because he had 2 in a row, were to Ricky Simon with a guillotine choke submission. That was back at a UFC fight night in April of 2018. And then the other one before that was a Frankie Saenz loss. It was a split decision loss on a UFC fight night back in December of 2017. You want to know how long ago that second loss was? The headline of the night was Cub Swanson versus Brian Ortega.
Yeah, that's wild.
That's a while ago.
It's definitely a while ago, but this one has been brewing for a while. Mm-hmm. Love him or hate him, Sugar Sean O'Malley is a charismatic fighter who has gone in, and majority of the time, in my opinion, he has really showed up and really pulled out some magic. And this has rubbed some people the wrong way, per se, but we also remember, as we've talked about at great length here on the ODPH, when fighters have big personalities, it tends to get them more in the spotlight.
Right.
And it gets them on more marquee moments. And obviously, with this being the fight at the Spear for UFC Noche, which is celebrating Mexican Independence Day too, which you definitely want to mention that.
Yeah, shout out to them.
Absolutely. When we see him get on a card like this and he's going to be a headliner, he's going to just want to have a storyline built in for this. And they have one with Dvalishvili because he comes from the same camp as Aljamain Sterling. And there's a long history between those fighters.
You don't say.
And when Merab had been waiting for Sterling to get a shot, when he finally did and lost, you saw Sterling go up in the weight class because he refused to fight him.
Right.
And now we see that this fight has been brewing and building. And I tell you what, it's going to be fireworks. It's going to live up to the expectation. And I see New by the end of the night. I think Merab has looked phenomenal. I think Sugar Sean O'Malley has had a lot of hype behind him. But this is going to be the true challenge for him. That I think he needs to prove that he can weather the storm of Dvalishvili, who is a very, very solid fighter all around.
Right.
And the thing is, if Merab wants to take him down, which I mean his bread and butter is wrestling, if he takes him down, I don't know how O'Malley is going to handle that. This is the wrestler versus striker mentality.
Of the 18 wins from Sean O'Malley, 12 of them are by knockout.
Yeah. So
he's got a submission win.
He's got a submission win, but then again, it's like when you start thinking about...
God, that win was a while ago.
Yeah.
It's his third professional fight against Omar Evalar for intense championship fighting. Was a rear naked choke submission on August 21st, 2015.
Yeah, like I say, he doesn't go for any submissions. He's tried to be a knockout specialist, which he has power for being in that division, which is very, like I say, you don't hear a lot about that division having it.
Right.
Has great fighters, but you don't really hear about like somebody that's knocking everybody out.
Right.
But when you start seeing in comparison against Merab, who is going to ground and pound him, I mean, that's going to be something that's really going to make a lot of, exciting scenarios play out here.
Right.
I honestly am trying to think about how this is going to go because this is not exactly as easy as I think, but I'm going to tell you right now, I think Merab wins this.
For what it's worth, ESPN Bet has the odds currently, as we record, O'Malley is a minus 135 and Merab is a plus 115.
See,
for what it's worth,
but that's the thing. But O'Malley has hype behind him. That's the one thing. And we've seen this in years past. We talk about the Paige Van Zants, the Sage Northcutts. Whenever UFC falls in love with a fighter, they have this buzz behind them. And it's not saying they haven't warranted, but it's like sometimes when you get put in the spotlight like this, you either rise to the occasion or you start losing focus. And I think in this situation, O'Malley is looking at other fights. I think he's not taking Merab lightly, but I think that he's not understanding how hungry Merab is to get that belt.
Right.
And I think that he now has this opportunity after waiting and being such a loyal teammate to that camp with Sterling. And I think now that he's got that opportunity, he's not going to miss. I think he wins this by unanimous decision. And it's going, and I don't want to say the words lay and pray, but he's going to ground him. And I think that's going to get a lot of fans very angry. But he's going to fight this very, very to the ground and very, very slow paced. O'Malley's got one shot. He's got to knock him out in the first or second. If it goes to deep water, he's in trouble.
O'Malley, and I'm looking at his record, O'Malley hasn't gone to deep water all that much, just because prior to his being champion, he went for the belt against Aljamain Sterling in August of last year. He won that belt. That was ended in the second round. He's had the one title defense, which was the unanimous decision win against Marlon Vera. So he's got one fight under his belt that's gone the full distance. So he's gone into those deep championship waters once. Prior to that was a fight against Peter Yan at UFC 280 back in 2022. But that was 3 rounds, 5 minutes. So that was only 15 minutes. And then prior to that was a UFC, so that's 2. Then he had a fight against Andre Soukhamthath. Soukhamthath. That was a unanimous decision, but again, not a championship fight, not a main event fight, so it only went to 3 5-minute rounds. So in his entire UFC career, he's gone, because I'm looking, there's another one, he's gone full distance 4 times. And one of them being the championship deep waters 5 rounds. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not going to say lamprey, but I think Merab's going to drag it out, and he's going to drag. If you think like a shark in one of those nature documentaries that really plays with their food and really just toys with them, I think that's what we're going to see out of Merab. Because Merab, you look at him, I'm looking at it, and it's just in his win streak. He's got in his win streak that I mentioned, the 10-fight win streak. One of them is a TKO win that ended in the second round. Every other fight has gone the distance. Yeah. So he's got the conditioning. He's got the cardio to do it. We know he can do it. And I think that's what he's going to do. I think he's going to try and listen. I might not be able to outpunch O'Malley. I might not be able to knock him out, but I can drag him into these deep waters and really bring him to my strengths, and that's my ground game.
And I think that's exactly what he's going to do. That's why I say I think this is going to be a unanimous decision.
I agree.
I think O'Malley's in a lot of trouble. I really do. And then what happens from here is anybody's guess. I mean, I've heard, depending on how this goes, we could see O'Malley maybe go up different weight class or try experimenting there. I've heard the same thing from Mara, but like I say, eventually, like, something's got to give here. But I think we just have to realize the drive in Marabin. I think a lot of people are sleeping on him because he's very quiet in comparison to O'Malley, who's been calling shots left and right on social media and whatever interviews he's done. Mirab is a little more reserved, but I tell you what, you give him that opportunity, I think he's going to take it.
Yeah.
A lot of great fights stemmed up for UFC 306. Like I said, we didn't do a full dive into the main card because literally it's stacked top to bottom.
Yeah.
A lot of contenders are going to go in there and really scrap, and that's going to be exciting to see. And then the 3 on the main card that really jumped out to us, we got a lot of thoughts, but we want to hear yours, ODPH Society. Hit us up on the hashtag ODPHpod. What is your thoughts going into UFC 306? Who you got? Let us know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
This is Tom from Tom Joe Lou,
This is Matt from Sideroom Sounds.
and you're listening to ODPH Podcast.
Wanna go where no one knows my name, to the desert, the oceans, or the plains. 'Cause I wanna go.
Coming back for the final segment on this edition of the ODPH Podcast. Pad, what you got?
Got a couple things to talk about. First of which is obviously being the local minute and looking at the standings for AA in the Eastern League, or the Northeast Division specifically, where our Binghamton Rumble Ponies play. Coming up on the end of the regular season here, Portland Sea Dogs currently in first place. They are the Boston Red Sox affiliate, 76-56 record. Hartford Yard Goats, the Colorado Rockies affiliate, are in second place with a record of 73-57. They're just 2 games back. Somerset Patriots, the New York Yankees affiliate, is in third with a record of 70-61. They are 5.5 games back. And then you got our Binghamton Rumble Ponies, who are in fourth place. They're the New York Mets affiliate, 65-65, 10 games out of first place. You got the Reading Fightin' Phils, who are in fifth place, 56-75. So they're 19.5 games out of first place. And then you've got the New Hampshire Fisher Cats, who are the Toronto Blue Jays affiliate, sitting at 51-79, 24 games out of first place. So coming up on the end of the regular season, going based off those standings, Not likely the Rumble Ponies are going to make a run in the
Nope.
playoffs this year. So, and unfortunately, they did finish up their home season at the stadium. So, well, you're going to want to see them again. Well, you're going to have to either go on the road to Portland this week or wait till next season. But looking at their games from this past week, which was the home series against the Somerset Patriots, they won their game back on Monday, Memorial Day. They lost that game. Final score of 6-5. Came back on Wednesday with a doubleheader, lost the first game 6-4, and then lost the second game 5-3. Won on Thursday by the final score of 2-1, lost on Friday 9-3, lost on Saturday 4-1, and won on Sunday 2-1. As I alluded to, they've got a final series of the season against the Portland Sea Dogs. First game is on Tuesday at 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern. Wednesday, 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern. Thursday at
6 o'clock Eastern.
Yeah. Friday at
6 o'clock Eastern.
Yep. Saturday at
6 o'clock Eastern.
Yep. And Sunday at
6 o'clock Eastern.
Wrong. 1 o'clock.
Ah.
Yeah, for more tickets information and keep up on all the good stuff with the Binghamton Rumble Ponies and their off-season stuff, bingrp.com. And don't forget, coming up on Binghamton Black Bear season here, title defense.
This is very true.
Coming up very soon. Then we got to talk a little bit of WWE because we're kind of in between pay-per-views. We got a little bit going on, though, setting up for the next pay-per-view, which is going to be Bad Blood. Somebody cue the Taylor Swift.
Yep.
Coming to October 5th at in Atlanta, Georgia at the State Farm Arena. Boy, this card's shaping up to be real good. A couple matches we know that have been announced just literally yesterday as we record. You've got a singles match for the Women's World Championship between Liv Morgan defending her belt against Rhea Ripley.
Well, this one they've been building up very nicely.
Yep.
I think Liv has a good chance to retain right now.
Agreed.
I just feel there'll be some shenanigans involved with it.
Probably.
So we'll have to kind of wait to see how that shapes up. But I think the build for this has been very fun. The faces are on their, on the receiving end of a lot of punishment right now, to put it mildly. So
Yeah.
So it's very interesting to see how they're evolving the new Judgment Day. I mean, I know the common rumor going around the internet is they're going to be renamed Street Trash.
I heard that rumor.
So,
It may or may not be true.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. But I like what the new direction's going in.
Speaking of Judgment Day and their shenanigans, the other match that got announced, Damian Priest against Finn Balor in a singles match.
No shock there. I mean,
No.
they've been building up for this a while, so I think that now is the time to really start cranking in the gear for that. If they're going to have this be a fight forever, like they need to have the face off, and then somebody's got and whether it's going to be Finn or Damian, which I don't know yet.
Right.
Obviously, I think this will be the end of their feud for now.
Yep. And then the last one that was announced, which I think everyone at this point figured it was coming, just needed them to announce it. CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, Hell in a Cell.
No shock here. The most personal storyline in all of WWE.
Yep.
Ramps it up another notch, and this is the way that you're going to blow off the feud for now. Makes perfect sense to do. So obviously Seth Rollins must be ready to rock and roll pretty soon
You would
to
think.
fill in the role here. And then, I mean, this one definitely is going to have everybody's attention. Very, very excited to see this finally play
Yeah.
out.
And then there was announced on Monday Night Raw, taking place Saturday, November 30th from Vancouver, British Columbia, up in Canada at the Rogers Arena. Survivor Series?
War Games.
Hell yeah, baby.
Yes. Very excited about that. Tickets are going on sale
Very soon.
very, very soon.
If they're not already.
Yeah, like I say, very excited here. Obviously, we knew it was coming, and now, the fact that tickets are getting announced, got to see how that's shaping up. I mean, I got to imagine it's going to be Bloodline versus Bloodline.
You would think, but I had this thought in the last 24 hours. It wouldn't surprise me if they maybe don't do that and they go Judgment Day War Games with like Judgment Day 2.0 versus Damian Priest and their side. I don't know.
I mean, it's possible.
I don't think it's going to happen, but like that thought did enter my mind with just how long it's been going.
Yeah, I mean, that's something, if they really want to build up for it, they can. I just don't think they're going to.
Yeah.
But
We'll see.
anything is possible.
Then we got to talk a little bit of baseball news because we are about just under 3 weeks from the end of the regular season and looking at where things currently stand in the postseason picture. So I'm going to start in the American League. Your top two seeds, so they're bypassing the wild card round and immediately jumping into the American League Division Series round. The 1 seed, the New York Yankees, and the 2 seed, the Cleveland Guardians. So the Yankees could, in this current scenario, if everything stays the same between now and the next 3 weeks, which if you know baseball, it won't. But as we currently record, the Yankees would face either the Kansas City Royals or the Baltimore Orioles.
That could be an interesting scenario, to say the least.
We've seen the Yankees and the Orioles in the postseason. It's always fireworks.
Yeah.
It's always electric. Jeffrey Mayer, how you doing? And then the potential opponents for the Cleveland Guardians could be the Minnesota Twins or the Houston Asterisks.
Let's go Minnesota.
Yeah, let's go Minnesota. Let's go Cleveland.
Oh, yeah.
On the flip side for the National League, you've got the Philadelphia Phillies and the LA Dodgers as the first 2 seeds, so they're bypassing the wild card round, going right to the National League Division Series. The Phillies could potentially play in the NLDS, either the Arizona Diamondbacks or the San Diego Padres. Either way, the Phillies are coming out of that one.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty safe.
Phillies are on fire. For the LA Dodgers, they could face either the Milwaukee Brewers or the New York Mets.
The most unlikely story of all of baseball this year.
Yeah, I'll say, Jesus Christ.
The fact the Mets put it together. I mean, shocked.
They were up, then they were down.
Shocked.
Then they're back up, then they're back down. Now
Yeah.
they're back up. It's kind of wild. It's like a roller coaster.
Yeah.
And then sticking with baseball, if you're looking for something to watch in the next couple of weeks, coming out in October specifically, on the 23rd, it's a documentary called The Comeback. It's about the 2004 Boston Red Sox. Well, you and I won't be watching, but hey,
Nope.
if you're looking for something to watch in late October, here's something for you. Of course, it's coming out on the 20th anniversary of the team's groundbreaking postseason run. Of course, they were down 3-0 in the playoffs against the Yankees, came back, beat them, swept the St. Louis Cardinals in the World Series, breaking the 86-year curse of the Bambino. The 3-episode series going to feature interviews with Pedro Martinez, David Ortiz, Kevin Millar, Terry Francona, Theo Epstein, and of course many, many more. Johnny Damon's probably going to be in there too. But yeah, definitely something to check out. It's premiering on October 23rd on Netflix. It's directed by Colin Barnacle, and it's produced by Metalark Media and Barnacle Brothers in association with MLB. So definitely something to check out. And if you're a Red Sox fan, you and I, not so much.
Not so much indeed.
And then we got a little bit of breaking news. Breaking footy news. And that is the U.S. Men's National Soccer Team has a new head coach. It has been announced by the folks over at ussoccer.com. That's the official page for the U.S. soccer team. And that is Mauricio Pochettino is the new U.S. men's national team coach. Reading from the article, it says the U.S. Soccer Federation has appointed Mauricio Pochettino as the new head coach of the U.S. men's national team. Pochettino, 52, a seasoned and highly respected manager, has had successful stints with several top European clubs, including Tottenham Hotspurs, Paris Saint-Germain, and Chelsea. Known for building teams with dynamic styles of play, he will now take the helm of the USMNT, bringing his extensive experience and tactical acumen to lead the team into the FIFA World Cup 2026 on home soil. So definitely, I like the pick. He's got a hell of an acumen, hell of a playing career there. He played internationally for the Argentinian team, Argentina under-20 team, the under-23 team, and then he did play for the Argentina national team a couple of years there. But like we mentioned, he managed Southampton, Tottenham, Paris Saint-Germain, Chelsea most recently. So he's definitely got some top-flight experience. And you know what? Might be what that team needs to make at least a decent run when we're hosting the damn thing this upcoming the next couple of years.
Yeah. I'm with you on that.
Hey, good for U.S. team. They got the not the pick I would have made, but that guy said no thanks, but no thanks.
This is true.
Yeah.
And then last but certainly not least for me, going back to the UFC, there was an announcement of a retirement, and one that I think definitely deserves a lot of praise and to give him his flowers now. And that is one, Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson is retiring from competition.
Most lopsided trade in sports history.
Yeah, for a fighter that, when we talk about a dominant champion, his name has to be in the conversation. I mean, arguably, he is the greatest pound-per-pound fighter in all of MMA history.
30 professional fights, 25 wins, 4 losses, 1 draw.
And for the fact that when he rose through the ranks of the UFC, he used to fight at 135. And he did not capture gold there. He was facing Dominic Cruz, and Dominic Cruz was like the unstoppable Dominic. His footwork was just impeccable, and nobody could touch him. This was a situation that he took advantage of when they were developing the flyweight division. And in that division, and I want to say he ran that from 2012 to 2017.
Yes. So he won the UFC flyweight tournament and the inaugural UFC flyweight championship in a match against Joseph Benavidez, split decision win.
Yep.
On UFC 152. That was in September of 2012. He ran that division. I'm looking. That's another defense. He did not lose that belt until Henry Cejudo defeated him via split decision loss at UFC 227 on August 4th of 2018.
Yeah.
So that's why, because he had a draw against Ian McCall. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's, I think it's about 12 wins in a row. Yeah, 12 wins in a row.
Yeah, which is unprecedented. Like I say, to think about it, I mean, John Jones is in that conversation, Anderson Silva,
Yeah, I was gonna say.
GSP. When you start thinking of dominant champions, like DJ has to be in that talk. And the thing about it too is he fought everybody who was in that weight class.
Ray Borg, Wilson Reese, Tim Elliott, Henry Cejudo, John Dotson, Kyoji Hiraguchi, Chris Carrasco, Al Bagantu, Bagautinov. Joseph Benavidez, John Moraga, John Dodson, Joseph Benavidez, Ian McCall. Like, dude fought everybody.
He was recycling a lot of fighters. I mean, that's the thing that, unfortunately, that weight class just did not have enough to really make it a deep division. Mm-hmm. But he always fought everybody there. And the thing about it, too, is he always went for finishes. I know a lot that he had decisions, but it wasn't like he was trying to. Like, he would take a lot of risks late in the rounds.
Right.
In fact, one fight that will always stand out to me for the test of time, and still to this day, it was a wild finish that I don't think I will ever mentally, process.
Mm-hmm.
He went for a takedown from the back. Mm-hmm. And in midair, he flipped that to an armbar.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of the wildest transitions you'll ever see in MMA history.
I remember seeing that, yeah.
And the fact he did that flawlessly, I mean, that's just what he used to do. I mean, he was just that skilled, and nobody was coming near him at the time. And then when he did lose to Cejudo, which still to this day, I don't think he lost. I really don't.
I don't think so either.
The powers that be at the UFC decided to make one of the craziest choices, and one that it has completely backfired.
I need a 30 for 30, even if it's not a full 30 for 30, one of those short ones, on why this happened.
Well, the problem was that the UFC, in my opinion, did not have a lot of faith in the flyweight division, because you need stars. And DJ is a great fighter, but he's not a personality. He's not a conner.
No, he's not a trash talker.
Yeah, so he just goes in there and just beats the crap out of people, but he does it skillfully. So the UFC was thinking, okay, we need to get somebody with star power. On the other side from one championship was Ben Askren, who at the time was undefeated, wrestling skills galore, kind of a boring fighter, if you will, in some people's eyes. I always thought he was just very skillful, in the same vein as GSP.
Right.
Just he was not as well versed in the martial arts. He just ground you. And the fact they made the swap in the first time we've ever seen a trade happen
in the UFC and in MMA,
yeah, which was wild to see. I mean, Askren's UFC career has been a highlight reel, if you will, for not the right reasons.
Yeah, it was a short one, that's for sure.
And for DJ, he went over to one championship and eventually won gold there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still crazy to think about, how successful he's been.
I mean, just to kind of build off of what you said, like you alluded to, he got traded over to one championship, went in there, eventually got the belt there, but he got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fights out of him over the course of a couple of years there.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Ben Askren came into the UFC, fought 3 times, and retired.
Yeah. I mean, it was just a situation that DJ was still fighting at a high level. Askren was a name, and it backfired on the UFC, and I think is the decision that haunts him to this day, in my opinion, because had DJ been there for the rise of the flyweight division now, you could have had some really great fights. And unfortunately, we're never going to happen. But he did what he does best. He goes to a federation that wanted him there. He tore the house down. And obviously, wrapping up his career, you knew that it was time to go for him.
Yeah.
And that's where he said he's happy about leaving on a high note, and he's definitely one of the most decorated fighters in all of MMA history.
Dana said he's going to be in the UFC Hall of Fame. I know they announced, because I saw the clip when he announced his retirement at the One Championship event. He's going to be in the One Championship Hall of Fame. I mean, like every Hall of Fame there is.
As he should be. I mean, you want to talk about a fighter that is a true martial artist. You want to talk about somebody that really understands the game of MMA. People should study his fights because he's that damn good. And he's in that discussion. People don't want to give him credit because he's a lower weight class. He's in that pound-for-pound greatest fighter of all time. No question about it. None. So wishing him the best in whatever he's going to be doing in his retirement days now. I wouldn't doubt he's involved in the video games for some reason.
Yeah.
We'll just kind of leave it at that.
Yeah.
But definitely kudos to DJ on a hell of a career, and thank you for the memories. Enough said. Well, just one thing, I guess, left to be said, and that is for anything and everything. It is the ODPH. That's ODPHpodcast.com. That's it for this week. So for the one and only Padawan J.
Still more wins than the Florida State Seminoles, 0-2.
And I was surprised. I was waiting on your Astros call.
Oh yeah, well, fuck the Astros too. That's a given.
We can't end a sports show without it.
Fuck them.
Yeah, I'm your host, Ken. Thank you as always listening to the ODPH podcast. We'll see you next time.
It's such waste of time swiping left and swiping right on people you could know. 'Cause anyone who's worth a damn be worth way more than a picture could ever show. You could find the right light, find the right angle, and never find your soul. And it can feel like a losing battle, and this plot is full of holes. This modern way of finding love just makes me feel so alone. And I can't be the only one sick of staring at my phone. So look up, talk to me, a better way to spend our energy. Just look up, talk to me. We don't have to float alone on the open sea. Don't know that I believe in the old time fable. Everyone has just one true love. All I know is you're across this table, and you're all I'm thinking of. So look up, talk to me, a better way to spend our energy. Just look up, talk to me. We don't have to float alone on the open sea. Talk to me. Talk to me. It's such waste of time swiping left and swiping right on people you could know. Whoa.